The quickest way to improve your life is to improve the story you tell yourself, to improve the story you tell about yourself. I'm sharing this because it really, really works. And I know this because it's what I've used to improve my life, to change it so much. It all comes back to this principle. At a certain point in my life, I had to find the story I was telling myself that kept creating these miserable circumstances. I was really unhappy. It was a very dark time. I've told that story in previous videos. I don't need to tell it again. But just bringing it up here to say, yeah, you might have heard a million people say something similar. Hey, you change your story, you change your life. Yeah, there's truth in it though. So please don't shut this off. This video is a self-esteem restoration. That's what this is for. To bring your self-esteem up, to bring your self-worth up, to remind you who the fuck you really are. That's what this is for. That's why we're here. That's why I'm creating this. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to record a little prayer, sort of affirmation, guided experience that you can listen to over and over and over to let these messages sink into your subconscious. Because the more that they do, the quicker your story changes. So at this point, right, it's probably a good idea to get clear on what I mean by story. What is story? Well, it's a narrative that runs in the background of your mind all the time, and it controls the way you think. It controls who you think you are. It tells you what you think you deserve. It tells you the rules, supposedly. It gives you your ideas of right, wrong, good, bad, risk, reward, etc., etc. It tells you what you're able to have or allowed to have, or what you're not able to have or you're not allowed to have in your life. It controls every aspect of what you're experiencing right now. And what's so wild to me, this is the most wild part. Yes, we have this sort of like software running in the background all the time. But the crazier part to me is we don't even realize it's happening. It's going on without us ever being aware of it. And yet it is creating and dictating and influencing the circumstances that we live in. It's wild when you think about it. So it's on in the background, silent and invisible. And it's running all the time. And the ways it is not silent and not invisible, where it is loud and visible, is only in the results you look around at and experience in your life. That is your story made manifest. So your story is the blueprint for your life. It's responsible for everything you experience, everything you create. And therefore, if you want to change what you're experiencing, what you're creating, you have to change the story. You know, if you're going to build a building or put an addition on your house, you operate by the blueprint. You don't just go wing it. The blueprint is the thing that determines how you go create. We have the exact same thing that's happening right now. It's not a written blueprint, but it is a blueprint in here. And it literally creates our external reality in much the same way a blueprint in architecture would determine the physical building that's built. To reiterate this for maybe the 1000th time already, everything in your life is controlled or created by your story. Everything. It controls how you think. It dictates how you think. And if you are familiar with this work and any other content I've put out, right, our thoughts are the basis for everything. We have this mindset. We have a belief system that creates our thoughts. Our thoughts then lead to our actions. Our actions then produce results. Those results are the world we walk around in. It all begins with our thought, with our mindset, with our state of consciousness. Our story controls all of that. It literally controls the thoughts we have access to. Not only that, it controls what we see in the world, not how we see, meaning you could see a car out there, how you would see it would be like, that's a new car or it's an old car. It's a nice car. It's a non-nice car. It controls that, but it controls more than that. It controls literally what we see. So if we get quasi-scientific for a second, right? Our eyes don't really see, right? Our eyes take light in. They're taking in light reflected from the sun off of objects in the world. Our mind tells us what those things are. Our mind is the one that interprets that light into images, into meaning, into definition, and tells us what it is. So our eyes don't even really see, our mind does. Our eyes just receive light. It's the mind in the back of it that's telling you what you see in the world. That mind is controlled by the story you tell yourself, who you think you are, how you think the world is around you, what you think you're allowed to have, whether you think you're good or bad, right or wrong. And I don't love those divisive type of words. However, we all have programs that do tell us that kind of thing. Fundamentally, you're bad, you're good, stuff like that. So everything you take in through your eyeballs is then interpreted in your mind by that story. And it will literally determine not only how you see, but what you see. Why is that significant? Let's say you want to improve your relationship right now. Take any example, we'll use that. You've tried and tried and tried all these different ways, but you know in your heart there's a way to improve it. It hasn't happened yet. That just means there's an opportunity out there that you haven't seen yet, you haven't yet been aware of. The thing that will determine whether or not you see that opportunity and then use it to change your relationship is your story. Because your story probably has something in it that's going, I don't know if we could change this. I don't know if it's possible. We've done everything. Relationships just fizzle out eventually. Something in your story will either keep you from seeing the solution or allow you to see the solution and take action. So I hope you can see how deeply significant, how foundationally important your story is. It determines not only how you see, but literally what you see. And again, remember, your story is silent, it is invisible, and it's running all the time, which means we're operating in this world where we want to go create significant change for ourselves, for others. We have big dreams that we're here to live. We have purposes to fulfill. In order to do that, we need to see new opportunities. However, we have a story that wants to keep us right where we are. It's very comfortable where we are. So it's not intentionally trying to work against you, it's trying to help you. But the way it knows to help you is to keep things exactly as they are. So if we want to go change things, we need new opportunities, new experiences. We need a new story to allow those things to happen. This also means, this whole dynamic with the story also means this. We want to change things. And many of you watching this video would probably put yourself in the category of someone who's working very hard to make the changes you want, to create the life you want. You're doing everything you know how to do. What is really challenging, I think extremely frustrating in personal growth sometimes, is that we're doing all this stuff to make changes, and yet we don't actually see what's creating the problem, the challenge, the circumstance to begin with. We don't see that it's our story that's upholding all of this stuff. So we go try to change other things outside of ourselves. We try to move pieces around without ever really knowing that it's our story that's the thing that actually has to change. So we're chasing shadows until we're not. Because this video ultimately is about changing your story to improve your self-esteem and your self-worth, we're here to do a self-esteem restoration because everything is built on your self-esteem. Let's look at what self-esteem actually means. We all think we know what it means, but let's, for the sake of this video, I'm going to read you a definition. Self-esteem is confidence in one's own worth or abilities. Beautiful. Very simple. So that's our basis here. We come into the world with an intact self-esteem. It's perfect. We're coming from God, from Spirit, from Source. Nothing has changed our awareness of who we really are. So we come in knowing we're perfect. We come in knowing we're a child of God. And when I say knowing, I'm not necessarily saying the way an adult thinks, it's a baby's mind, but there is no separation. If you've ever been around a baby, it doesn't see itself as individuated, as distinct. It's part of the whole, and it knows that. So we come in with an intact or perfect self-esteem, or a blank slate, you could say, depending on how you want to say it. And then we're taught how to think and what to believe about ourselves. This is learned self-esteem. And this learned self-esteem, which is always, almost always anyways, based on some kind of lack, becomes the basis for our story. So we inherit a blueprint of who we are from our parents and from their parents. This generation upon generation upon generation, it is handed down, and we accept it without even knowing we have a choice. And I'm not here to blame anybody, okay? Everyone in our previous generations, all our ancestors have done their best with this. But we've inherited this thing without even realizing it. We just take it as a fact, as an immutable thing that cannot change. But it can't. So that self-esteem becomes the basis of the story we live in. And that story becomes the basis of the life we create. And if you're watching this video, your life might be amazing. And you're also watching this video because you want to create something even better. And in order for that to happen, the story has to change again. It has to be upgraded again. We get to upgrade it as often as we want, which is incredible. So, if you're willing, let's tell a new story that becomes the basis of the extraordinary life I know you want, that becomes the basis or the building block of everything you know you're here to create. Sound good? And listen, rather than fighting against the old, I find that exhausting and quite frankly unnecessary. We don't have to go fight and root out the old story and pick it apart and do battle with it. That's exhausting. And all we would end up doing really is focusing on the old story, which would just perpetuate it. So instead of that, we're just going to tell a new story in its place. We're going to tell a new story that over time becomes a habit. Tell this new story to think these new thoughts about yourself and the world around you becomes a habit. And that habit ultimately becomes a belief. That's what a belief is. It's a thought that just gets things thought over and over and over again till it just becomes part of the operating system. So this may sound like unsexy, unfun work, and it can be at times for sure. It's also incredibly liberating. So if you think of a dream you have right now, if it's a financial one, if it's a relational one, if it's a business one, if it's a health one, you have something you want that you don't yet have. Hold a thought right now that knows you will ultimately and eventually have that. You are destined to have that. It is in your DNA to receive that. Nothing could stop you from having it. As long as you keep moving forward, it's given, it's automatic, it is definite. How much better does that thought feel? So yes, you have to be aware of your thoughts for sure, which requires diligence and fortitude and isn't always fun. And the flip side of that is when you catch yourself thinking something negative, when you catch yourself in a negative story and you flip that on its head immediately, it feels incredible. There is so much energy release. There's so much joy in that. So yeah, it requires diligence, and there can be so much peace and joy and fun and freedom in that diligence. So what I want to do, instead of just talking about this over and over, learning's helpful, understanding's helpful. I want to actually speak to a deeper part of you. I want to speak to your subconscious. I want to speak to the part of you where this story lives and where the story ultimately needs to change. So when you can, relax. If you can close your eyes, awesome. If not, it's still going to get in there. I'm going to really take you through what you could call a guided meditation, a prayer, a set of affirmations. And all this is really, it's a new story. It's a foundation upon which to build your new story. And the more you listen to this, the more you integrate it, the more natural it will become to think this way. And when it becomes natural and habitual to think this way, that means you believe this about yourself. And when you believe this, your life will change dramatically. So if you can, close your eyes. If not, just have this on in the background and encourage you to listen to this over and over and over again. A, I think it'll feel great to do so. It'll bring you some joy and some relief and some peace. And B, and more importantly, the more you listen to this, the more it gets registered in your subconscious as the truth. The more your story changes, the quicker your story changes, and the quicker your results change. So relax, enjoy, take this in. Praying for you and rooting for you. I believe in you. I love you. Self-esteem restoration. You're here on purpose, and you are a gift to life. There's nothing you have to do to be worthy of what you want. There's nothing you have to do to be worthy of feeling good. You're worthy right now. You're worthy of all of it. Your worth is inherent. It's embedded in the fabric of who you are. It comes from the source from which you came. It's part of who you are at the deepest level. You're worthy because you exist. You are enough because you exist. You are a child of God. You are whole, complete, and perfect. That's how you were created. That's how you arrived here. Your worth comes from who you are, not from what you do. It has nothing to do with what you do, and everything to do with who you are. And who you are at your core never changes. You come from God, and you're made of God energy. That is who and what you are. From that perspective, it's impossible for you to be unworthy or not good enough. God sent you here with unique gifts. You're here because you have those unique gifts. These gifts are vital to life, which means you are vital to life. There's literally nobody else in the world who can bless life the way that you can. No one else has your gifts to give. No one else can serve the world the way that you can. You are a miracle. So what's your big dream, your big vision for your life? Call it up, call it into your mind right now. See it, feel it, sense it, as if it's happening right now. Whatever it is, it was given specifically to you to fulfill. That means you have everything within you required to fulfill it already. You are capable. You are more than enough. The existence of the dream in your heart proves you're capable. It wouldn't be there if not. It wouldn't be there if you weren't enough. God doesn't give us a dream we're incapable of fulfilling. You're already enough, already capable, already have everything you need. Nothing lacking, nothing missing, nothing wrong. You are one with God. You are whole. You are complete. You are perfect. I believe in you. I love you. I see you. Trust yourself. Trust life operating through you. Remember who you truly are underneath all the programs, all the stories. Choose a new story today. Choose a new story this very moment. You are enough. You are capable. You are loved. You are seen. You are cherished. You are appreciated. You are here for a purpose, and you have everything you need to fulfill that purpose. Let yourself be loved and guided in every second. You'll get where you want to go.